What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at the companions in Black Geyser, Couriers of Darkness. So right off the bat, I want to mention a few things. There are romances in the game, however, I don't really have any details on them at the moment. I'm not even sure if they are in the early access period, which is what is going on in a couple days and why this video is being published. So all I can say is that there will be romances, but I don't have any details beyond that. In addition, I want to mention that, for starters, I know for a fact not all of the companions are implemented in the early access period currently. And because of that, what I'm showing you here is all the companions I could find in early access, combined with a few that I know are confirmed, but not actually people I was able to find in the early access period at least. And because of that, I'm not going to claim that this is all of the companions because truthfully, I just do not know. Because as the developers have stated, there will actually be other companions coming with the full release of the game. I just cannot confirm that this is all of them, so I'm not going to claim that it is. And then the last thing I want to mention before we jump into this is that all of the companions, while they do have a basic personality, if you will, the developers mention that a lot of how they react to you and the world and stuff depends on two things. One, how you deal with their quests, as they will have personal quests. But secondly, the game's greed mechanic. There is a mechanic that eventually will be fully implemented in game, where it's greed. Basically, you either do evil things and push along the curse of greed that has kind of blanketed the land. And then as the greed tiers rise for the world, it changes like the world state and how NPCs and things react. And this includes your companions as well. So their behavior and personality, I would assume, are largely dependent on greed as well as how you've handled their personal quests. If you're more interested in just kind of the broad strokes of the game, I actually have a checkout video that should be up already as well, which kind of goes over the entire game in a bit more detail, as I'm not going to spend much time explaining that here. So with no further ado, let's actually jump into it. The first companion you're going to run across in-game is Helgenhar. This is a dwarf. He comes from a family of stone seekers, which seems to be a title of some sort for the dwarves. I don't have anything too concrete on what that actually is. But basically, while Helgenhar was enjoying living life as a dwarf underground, he slowly noticed that dwarves as a people started just changing, that they began to develop a lot of greed and covet beautiful and valuable things. And this got to a point where he decided that he had to investigate, and the only way to do that was to head up topside and start investigating. Helgenhar is literally the first person you will meet like right after the tutorial area. He tends to act as a tank, he's a warrior, and obviously a dwarf. So that brings us to, I believe it's pronounced Bjala, or Jala maybe? Either way, she is a snow elf. Specifically, they call them like Feldagugs, but basically they're snow elves. But she is a spellweaver, which is a class in the game. But she is a court mage for the main city, if you will, of Izelmereld. And she recently came into possession of a gemstone that is supposed to supposedly have control over the very fates itself. Now, she is mandatory to come across, at least at the beginning. She is actually involved in a main quest towards the beginning of the game and is thus unavoidable, though you don't have to take her with you after that. But she is basically just a straight-up wizard. She likes to cast spells, is known and renowned for her ability to do so, and basically, again, serves as the court mage. She was specifically mentioned in some of the Kickstarter stuff as a romanceable companion, and that brings us to our next character. I believe it is pronounced Soraka. Soraka is a member of the Rillo race. They are rather interesting. Again, I recommend you check out my checkout video if you're more interested, but they are easily found by their tusks so that they have kind of growing out of their cheekbones. But Soraka is interesting because she is just straight up a heretic to her people. So the Rillo are followers of one particular god, I believe it's pronounced Elnuator. Their people are very fervent in the worship of that deity. However, Soraka here actually decided to become a cleric of Elnarius, which is like the good god. You'll see a lot of temples to it around the world. Because of the relationship her people have with their god, she is very much so being hunted. You actually meet her, finding her being attacked by assassins from her people, because again, of what she does. She herself is a healer, and typically speaking, a good person. Now that brings us to Hamlin. Hamlin is a thief, plain and simple. You find him right after he had robbed a store owner. You can actually bump into him, kind of deal with that situation, and he'll offer to join your party. He is, again, just kind of a standard thief, really. He is an elf from the forest who then came here to make his fortune. Obviously, he's very much so into finding as much gold as possible. And that's kind of how he's presented in-game, at least. So what his quest and stuff entails, I have no idea. It doesn't really explain that. He is one of the characters I just found in Early Access that I didn't find any more information on elsewhere. And then lastly, for the in-game characters I was able to find, we have Arvex. Arvex is a particular interesting character. He is a human fighter, however. He is cursed by the god Elunetor, or whatever it is, again, the Rillo god. Basically, Rillo came and destroyed his village, killed his entire family, and then their god cursed him specifically, and now while he can be killed, the next day afterwards he will be resurrected in a clearing where he will be doomed to continue out his life, and no matter how he dies, no matter what happens, this continues on. So he starts following you around because he says you seem to have death stitched into your very being. So he's following you around hoping for an opportunity to actually permanently die so he can get this over with. Kind of interesting dude, pretty stoic overall. As you might imagine, has a bit of a grim countenance. And then from there, let's move on to the 3 that are confirmed, but I could not find them in game anywhere. First up, we have Jade. Jade is pretty much your typical necromancer. Had a childhood pet die, she tried to bring it back with death magic, which instilled a lifelong desire of her to bring the dead back to life. Now, the information you're given seems to imply she is not romanceable, but I'm honestly not sure one way or the other because they're kind of cryptic about it in that last little section there. But she's a necromancer, and that's really all we know about her. The next up is Fim. This guy is like your standard dramatic charlatan type, guy who loves to gamble and kind of deal with the dramatic situations therein. And then lastly, we have the Sea Hag. The Sea Hag is interesting to me because she is both a druid and undead. While she herself doesn't even know all of her past, apparently, she was born in the tides of the Zarndur Sea. And while she was mortal, at some point, she apparently died at sea, where she was then brought back to undeath, I suppose, by Omeirenon, which is like the god of the seas. And even that deity refuses to explain to her why he's done this. However, she follows his lead nonetheless. And that said, even despite the odd nature of her existence, she is, generally speaking, seemingly a benevolent person. There you go, guys. There is a look at some of the companions, at the very least, that we will be seeing in Black Geyser, Couriers of Darkness. Again, the first 5 that I mentioned will be the characters you can actually find in Early Access for sure. But again, I'm not claiming this is all of them, just everything that I could find. And then again, they've confirmed companions that I can't find anywhere in game. Plus, they've mentioned there will be extra companions on the full release of the game. So I don't know if that is just those 3 that I haven't found in Early Access yet or what. But ultimately, with a party of 5, you'll be able to take at least 4 of these people along with you at any given time. So with all that stuff out of the way, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Regardless of any of that, though, truly, thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.